Okay, this video is going to be on factoring, quadratics and fourth power roots. This is going to be factoring and solve by factoring. So I'm going to start at the very beginning. Okay, factoring is very important. Okay, I'm going to walk you through the steps to solve by factoring. First thing you got to do is make sure it's set equal to 0. Okay, all right. What you want to do next is you want to see if you have a GCF, a greatest common factor. Okay. And what that means is a number that goes into all terms, all right, but obviously not the equals 0, okay? So there's no number that would go into, these two would be 3 and 3, but that wouldn't go into 10, okay? Now, a lot of different ways to factor, all right? When it's a trinomial, I'm going to multiply first times last. That is going to be 9. The factors of 9 are 1 and 9, 3 and 3. Okay, now, if you have negatives in your problem, I want to be very clear with this. If you have negatives, okay, if you have negatives, all right, and it's a 3 term, okay, if the last number, the last term is positive, both factors will be negative, okay? If you have negatives, okay, and your last term is negative, one factor will be negative. Okay, so in this case, all right, last term here is positive, so both will be negative. And what I'm looking for is the set that adds up to that middle number. And what these are going to do is they're in essence replacing that. So what I do is I make a little box. My first term goes in here, okay? My last term goes in there. The ones I found in the table go here, okay? All right? So step 1, GCF, and then step 3 is whatever method. Is it a 3 term or a 2 term? We're going to talk about those, okay? All right? 3 term, all right, multiply first and last. All right, find factors that add up to middle, okay, place in box, okay. Now what I want to do is I want to look down this row. What goes into 3x squared and negative 9x? It's going to be 3x. And the box unravels. 3x times x gives me this. 3x times negative 3 gives me that. X times negative 1 gives me that. Okay? All right, so my factors are 3x minus 1 and x minus 3. Now, all I have to do to solve by factor is then just, after I get done, all right, so I would take a GCF and then unravel the box. All right, and then I want to set my factors equal to 0 and solve. So in this case, I set 3x minus 1 equal to 0. That I would add 1 over there, so that's 3x equals 1. Then divide by 3. So one of those solutions is 1/3. X minus 3 equals 0. Add 3. That's x equals 3. So that would be my other solution. 1/3 and 3. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're just going to practice a bunch of factoring questions. All right, now, this one's not set equal to 0, so very quickly, I want to move that back over. So I got x squared plus 2x minus 24 equals 0. It's 24 on this side, I want to subtract 24. The fastest way to do it is just change the sign. Okay, first times last. Factors of negative 24 that would add up to 2. Well, one side's got to be negative here. Okay. So I think negative 6 and 4, that would give me negative 2, so that's not quite right. So I want to go positive 6, negative 4. All right, now that gives me positive 2. So he's got to play around a little bit with the numbers. All right, so I got 1x squared, positive 6x, minus 4x, minus 24. Now the GCF out of this one is x. X times x would give me this. X times negative 4 gives me that. X times 6 would give me that one. So here are my factors, x plus 6, x minus 4. How would I solve those? Set those equal to 0. Okay, subtract 6, that's x equals negative 6. Add 4, x equals 4. Okay, make sure you got the correct order. Okay, make sure you got the correct order. So in this one, what I would want to do is bring this back. I want to try to avoid the negative x squared thing if I can. So if I bring that back, that's going to be 10x squared, positive 40x, all right, positive 25, okay, equals 0. Okay, all right, factors of, I want this times this would be 250. I don't know if this actually will work out. Maybe I gave you one that's not factorable. Let's see, 1 and 250, 2 and 125, 250 divided by 5 is 5 and 50. Wait, hold on, let's see if I can try something else. 250 divided by 3, 250 divided by 4, 250 divided by 5. Okay, it's 5 and 50. Well, I may have picked one that's not factorable. Divided by 10. That's 10 and 25. 250 divided by 15. I think I picked something that's not factorable. Okay, let's change this. Let's make an adjustment here. Let's say this was 35x. Oh. Yeah, let's change this to 35x. Let's start this problem over. Sorry. Start this one over again. Sorry about that. But that's not right. Oh, maybe I wrote that down wrong. Okay. Okay, let's move that back over. 10x squared, all right, plus 35x plus 25. Now, actually, before I even get going in that, I got to take a GCF. So if you see here, all these are divisible by 5. So if I do that, that's going to be 2x squared plus 7x plus 5. Okay. All right. Now, when I take out the 5, that's got to come down with the factors. We'll get into that in a second. 2 times 5 is 10. Factors of 10 that would add up to 7, 2 and 5. Okay, so I got 2x squared plus 2x plus 5x plus 5. All right, the GCF out of this row is x. X times 2x gives me this. X times 5 gives me this. 2x times 1 would give me that. So one of my factors is 2x plus 5. This is x plus 5. So that would be the factor. Now, when you go to solve those, okay, if you set every part equal to 0, okay, this one can't solve. 5 can't equal 0. This one, subtract 5, that's 2x equals negative 5. Divide by 2, I get x equals negative 5 halves. This one, I subtract 1. X equals negative 1. Okay, so I got a little too early to that one. Go ahead and solve these on your own. Okay, now let me talk more about the GCFs. Sort of skipped ahead here on this. All right, if it's set equal to 0, you want to see if something all can be divisible by that. That's going to be 4. It's going to be 1x squared plus 1x minus 6 equals 0. That 4 has to come down with our factors, so we can't forget it. So 1 times negative 6 is negative 6. The set would be would be 3 and negative 2. That would add up to 1. So I got 1x squared plus 3x minus 2x minus 6. All right, x would be the greatest common factor. X times x gives me that. X times negative 2 gives me that. X times 3. So if I go to solve that, set the 4 equal to 0, the x plus 3 equal to 0, and the x minus 2 equal to 0. Okay, this one you can't solve. This one would be x equals negative 3. This one would be x equals 2. Okay, subtract 3 and add 2. Now, when you get to these, there's a couple ways I want to show you how you can do this. If I move this back, let's say I had this. Now, I want to avoid having the negative in front of x squared. I probably would have moved it to the other one, but if I take out a negative 1 here, That's going to be x squared minus x minus 30 equals 0, okay? And that negative 1 would come down and join the factors, okay? And then I got 1 times negative 30 is negative 30. Factors of negative 30 that would add up to negative 1 would be negative 6 and 5. Okay? All right? So I got x squared minus 30 minus 6x plus 5x. The greatest common factor of that is that. X times x would give me x squared. X times 5 would give me this. X times this gives me this. That's x minus 6, x plus 5. If I go to solve that, negative 1 equals 0. X minus 5 equals 0. X plus 5 equals 0. Okay, this one you can't solve. This one would be x equals 6. This would be x equals negative 5. Okay, and that would from adding 6 on both sides and subtracting 5. But some of this mental math stuff you want to get good at. Okay? All right? Something of this nature. I move this back, so that's 5x cubed plus 45x squared, because if it moves from this side to this side, and then I got 100x. Now, got a couple things here in common. I've got a 5 and an x that I could take out of all of those. So that's got to go down and join my factors. Okay? So that's going to be x squared plus 9x plus 20. Okay? All right, 1 times 20 is 20. The factors of 20 that would add up to 9 would be 4 times 5 would give me 20, and that would add that up. Okay? All right? So in my little half box here, or my little box here, I got 1x squared plus 4x plus 5x plus 20. So after you take the GCF, one of the key things is it's like this part doesn't exist anymore. Okay? So the GCF here is x times x is x squared, x times 5 is 5x, x times 4 is that. So I got x plus 4, x plus 5. Now, if I go to solve these, that's 5x equals 0, that's x plus 4 equals 0, that's x plus 5 equals 0. Now, this one I can solve because there's a variable there. I can divide by 5. X is 0. This one I can subtract by 4. X equals negative 4. This one I can subtract by 5. X equals negative 5. Okay? So always solve the GCF as well. All right? So you go ahead and try those. Okay? All right, now, these ones with the even power, 2-term. Okay? Now, we still want to make sure it's set equal to 0. We still want to see if there's a GCF. Okay? Now, what we're going to do, very simply, one term is going to be a plus, one term is going to be a minus. I'm going to take the square root of both of those terms. Square root of 25x squared is 5x and 5x. That goes here and here. Square root of this term would be 4 and 4. Now, if there's still an even power, I want to try to do it again. In this case, there's not. So here are my factors. So I set these equal to 0. This is 5x equals 4. Divide by 5, I got x equals 4/5. This I would subtract 4. Divide by 5, I get x equals negative 4/5. Okay? Factor solutions. Okay? Now this one, it's already set equal to 0, plus and minus. Square root of x squared is x. Square root of 81 is 9. And that's how easy that is. X plus 9 equals 0. That's x equals negative 9. X minus 9 equals 0. X equals 9. Now, when you got these, a little bit more to it. Okay? So what I want to do, okay, plus and minus. Square root of this, square root of this. Square root of 94, 9x to the 4th is 3x squared. Square root of 25 is 5. So it starts out the same. Okay? Now, if I can try to take that square root again, I want to try to do that. Sometimes I cannot. Okay? So for instance, if I take the square root of 3, that doesn't get me anything. Square root of 5 doesn't get me anything. So this is good. Okay? So then what I want to do is I want to solve these things. Okay? I want to solve these factors. So 3x squared plus 5 equals 0. Okay? Subtract 5. That's 3x squared equals negative 5. All right, divide by 3. I get x squared equals negative 5/3. And then I want to take the square root with a plus and minus on both sides. Now, earlier in this unit, we learned about negative radicals. That means I have to have an I on the outside, okay? All right? And so what I'm going to do is this is going to turn into square root of 5 over square root of 3. All right? I'm going to multiply 3 top and bottom, okay? So that's going to be square root of 15, okay, over, all right, square root of 3 times 3 is 3. I cannot reduce that. So here's one of my answers, okay? And then I go to solve this other one, okay? I'm going to insert a page after this, so after current, okay? So I can do this x to the 4th minus 49, okay? We'll do that as problem number 4. Let me erase this. Okay, all right, so that's one solution. Okay, let me erase this part. Okay, then I got 3x squared minus 5 equals 0. All right, 3x squared equals 5. Divide by 3, I get x squared equals 5/3. Square root of that plus and minus. Okay, so x equals plus and minus square root of 5 over the square root of 3. And I rationalize that by multiplying. So that's going to be square root of 15 over 3, because that's what the square root of that times that is. So this is also a solution. Okay, so both of those are solutions to those quadratics. Okay, all right. Now, this one, plus minus, square root, that's x squared, square root of 49, 7 and 7. I cannot break this down anymore because square root of 7 is not a perfect square root. So now I'm going to go ahead and solve these. This one, I would subtract 7, take the square root plus and minus. Now, the negative square root's got to have an I, and then 7 cannot break down because 7 does not have any pairs. It's a prime number. This one I would add 7, okay? So it's x squared equals 7, square root of it, plus and minus. Okay, so x equals plus and minus square root of 7. And those would be my answers. Okay, we'll go over how to rationalize. We rationalized earlier in this unit. Okay, all right. So I want you guys to go ahead and try those on your own. Okay, now the 3 term with the 4, okay, x squared. All right, what you're going to do, I'm going to set up x squared equaling a. In algebra and in calculus, you'll get this thing called u substitution. But we're just going to go ahead and use a. And what that means is the concept of 4x to the 4th. Okay? If I'm taking x squared, that's what that is. Okay? All right? So what I'm saying is I'm going to make that 4 times a, which gives me 4a squared. All right? Making that regular 4a plus 1, same concept, okay? 4 times 1 would be 4, okay? All right, what are the factors of 4 that add up to that? That would be 2 and 2, okay? So I got my box here, I've got 4a squared plus 2a plus 1. That would be 2a plus 1, and plus 1, okay? So I got 2a plus 1, 2a plus 1. Now, the thing is, my original problem had x squared. So what I do is I put this back into here. So that's 2x squared plus 1, and 2x squared plus 1. Okay? All right? I want to solve them individually. All right? I'm going to insert a page after the current. Okay? I'm going to put this in there just because I'm going to run out of room. Okay? Okay, all right, so what I want to do is I want to solve those. Okay, so I got 2x squared plus 1 equals 0. Move that 1 over, so that's 2x squared equals negative 1. Divide it by 2, I get x squared equals negative 1/2. I'm going to take the square root plus and minus, okay? Because that's a negative, that's going to be an I on the outside. So rationalize that. That'd be plus and minus, okay? Square root of 2. Square root of 2 times square root of 2 would be 2. So that'd be the solution for that. And this is the same thing, so that solution's already there, okay? All right, you'll learn about that. That's a multiplicity deal, okay? Let's say I have this. I'm going to substitute a for x squared. So I got 2a squared minus 5a minus 25 equals 0, okay? All right, so this times this is negative 50. What factors in negative 50? That would have to be a negative 10 and a 5 to add up to that. So that's 2a squared minus 10a plus 5a minus 25. Okay, that would be an a. That would have to be 2a. That'd have to be 5. 2a times this would be that. I got a minus 5, 2a plus 5. Okay, now I want to bring back that x squared. So x squared minus 5. Okay, 2x squared plus 5. Okay, now I cannot factor that any further. Okay, all right. So I'm just going to go ahead and solve that. Okay, I'm going to add 5 on that. That's going to be x squared equals 5. Take the square root plus and minus. So x equals plus and minus square root of 5. Okay, this 2x squared plus 5 equaling 0. Okay, that's 2x squared equals negative 5. Divide by 2. I got x squared equals negative 5 over 2. Okay, square root plus and minus. Okay, since that's got a negative, I got to put that I on the outside. So that's going to be square root of 5 over square root of 2. Multiply to rationalize. It's going to be I square root of 10 all over 2. And that cannot get any simpler. Okay, so that would be a solution. That would be a solution. All right. So you go ahead and try those. All right. This unit takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of the rationalization, and then obviously using your factoring skills.